Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about the importance of reading books. I know it might sound cringe, but I think a very important part of improving yourself or so-called self-improvement is reading books. Because in a book is a person's learnings and lessons for a whole lifetime. So as I talked about in the last video, it is a great idea to learn from other people's mistakes. In a book you can get learnings from a whole lifetime, or at least pretty great amount of years, just by reading, I don't know, like 300 pages of a book. That's incredibly powerful because you can learn in a month what a man has learned in 30, 40 years. So that's why it's so important, and that's why I think everybody should be reading books. For example, I got a book right here called, it is called The Way of the Superior Man. I have it translated, but that's one of the greatest books I've read yet. It's incredibly powerful and shows insight in a lot of different spiritual things, but also it is just a guide towards masculinity and a guide in the difference between masculinity and femininity. It isn't necessary that you want to be masculine to read this book. You can read it even though you might be a woman or might be a feminine man. I don't judge. Uh, but it gives you some insight into at least this person's view of masculinity and femininity, and it is a very clear cut, in some cases, instruction in how to be a masculine man, which I think is very important. I pride myself in being masculine. I know it sounds cringe to say, oh, I'm masculine, but at least I try to be. I'm not always, because nobody's perfect, and in a lot of cases I might act feminine because I haven't actually been getting used to being masculine or quote unquote masculine for that long of a time. I've tried to gain my own masculinity for about 2 to 3 years. So there might be some cases where I act feminine, but I try not to. And I've read this book in the conquest of gaining my masculinity. And I think it's helped a lot because it's kind of shown me some things not to do. That involves both in your balance with women and in your balance with work. But this video isn't only about The Way of the Superior Man, it's just about books in general. So I think either way, if you're into masculinity and femininity, or if you think that's garbage, you can still read a lot of different books and gain a lot of different knowledge from those books. So I think no matter who you are, it's incredibly important to read books. And I know it can be very hard to concentrate on those books, even more hard if you have fried your brain with short form content like TikTok or Instagram Reels. And I won't lie, I've done that as well, so I'm not judging, okay? It's totally fair. But I would suggest that you just start by reading like a minute a day, and you can always increase that later, but just start with a minute a day. And it's incredibly important that you try as much as you can to not skip days. But if you do, it's not important. You just keep on going. So for example, if I say I do Monday, I'll read 1 minute. Tuesday, I'll read 1 minute. Then Wednesday, I skip a day because maybe I forgot. Then Thursday, I don't have to read 2 minutes. I just read one, because if it stacks, maybe I do read 2 minutes Thursday, but then Friday I forget, and Sunday I forget. Maybe Saturday I won't do it because now it's 3 instead of 1. So it's really important that if you forget a day, you just start with 1 minute again. It's not stacking up, okay? You don't have to do the leftover work or the leftover reading, because that might end in you not doing the reading whatsoever and then just dropping it and not reading anymore. So just do 1 minute a day. Try to focus as much as possible on remembering doing it every day, because then after about 20 days it will become a habit, and after that you can always put more minutes on as you go, but don't do it too quick, because then you might fuck it up and stop reading. So it's just a gradual increase of reading over time, but I think it's very good. I've done it myself. I read every evening. I've read the entirety of The Way of the Superior Man. And right now I am reading this book. It's called 48 Laws of Power. It's a book about psychology and the ways of power, and just basically it talks a lot about how to win over people and how to control power and gain power and how not to lose power. And it uses a lot of examples in the history, for example, some Chinese rulers and stuff like that, to illustrate some points about what to do with power and what not to do with power. And that doesn't just take learnings from one life, but from the entire history of mankind, or at least the entire recorded history of mankind. So it's incredibly powerful to gain learnings from the past, because if you won't do that, then you only have max 100 years to gain these learnings instead of several thousand years. But that was kind of what I was going to say in this video, so thank you for watching.